everybody, it's Hannah Studley from the Mind Body Institute, and today I wanted to talk about the fight or flight response, and not so much about how it biologically works in the body, but just how it can show up in everyday life, because it's a phrase that's kind of come into our regular conversation, and I wanted to show you how it can have such a negative effect on our lives if it's happening a lot of the time. So thank God these days my life is pretty peaceful, but I have a quick story to tell you to show you how it can show up very innocently. So I used to have a business making wedding dresses. It was such a fun job because I got to use all my creative skills to help these young women celebrate their most special day. And on this one particular occasion, a girl brought me a dress that she had ordered from America, and it wasn't quite the way she wanted. It was not filled in enough here at the top, and so she wanted me to work on it. The problem was that we only had a week, and it was a lot of work to do, and so she brought the dress over. We agreed on the price, we agreed on the work, and she knew I'd have to start straight away. So I get up early, and about 7 o'clock the next morning, I'm sat at my desk. I've got the dress, this big gown on my lap, and I'm snipping away, taking the sleeves off so I can replace them. And I'm checking my WhatsApp messages and my emails and Facebook, and I'm snipping and watching and snipping and clicking, and all of a sudden there was a bing bong, and there was a message from the bride, and she said, "Don't do anything yet." And I'm like, oh, it was really crazy. Adrenaline shot through my body in a split second. Now, I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, but I don't know this girl. Maybe she's a screamer. Maybe she's going to shout at me. There's a reason they call them bridezillas, unfortunately. And I found that the mothers are even worse quite a lot of the time. So my brain is reacting to reading that message, and it thinks I'm in danger. Adrenaline, cortisol, and glucose are being pumped through my body, ready for a fight. Okay? Now, there is a happy ending to this story. The girl was actually really wonderful. I explained what I'd done. She said, "Don't worry about it." And in the end, we finished the project. It was beautiful. She paid me well, and it was a really beautiful ending. But it was about, say, 7:30 in the morning by this point, and I have a body now full of adrenaline, and it really didn't feel good. It felt really yucky. So I decided to turn myself into an experiment. And so I looked at the clock, right? And I wondered how long would it take until all these stress chemicals were out of my body. And I can tell you it took about an hour. Now remember, the adrenaline only shot into me for a few seconds, because once we'd resolved the situation and I knew what I needed to do, the stress part of it was over, but the stress chemicals are still pumping through my blood system. So in that hour, I can tell you that I started pacing up and down. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate, and I had things to do. It kind of made me feel a little bit agitated, and I knew what was happening because I've been a trauma counselor for 30 years. So I wasn't frightened by the experience, but it was just really uncomfortable. So the funny thing was, I started looking for chocolate. Now, chocolate's kind of my default fix, right? I am a chocolate lover. And I was in my kitchen, and all I could find was chocolate chips, that I use for baking and cookies. And there I am. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning by this point, and I'm eating chocolate chips for breakfast, which is not good. And then I still felt uncomfortable. And for some reason, I started looking on YouTube for something funny to watch. Now, I know that watching something funny on YouTube is not going to make me feel better. It's my thoughts about what's funny is going to make myself better. But I wanted that. I didn't like feeling uncomfortable. And because it's just not how I live anymore. And as I was looking for, a funny video to watch, this really loud thought went through my head, and it said, "This is why people go to the doctor." And I thought, oh my gosh. You see, I lived like this for a couple of decades, through my teens and 20s into my early 30s, constantly hyper alert, hyper reactive, resentful, judgmental. All these things were keeping my blood full of these stress chemicals. And yes, I had some, real traumas and crisis that I went through, but our body was designed to cope with those. Our bodies were not designed to be keeping this level of stress and cortisol and adrenaline going for such long times, which is why we get sick. For me, it was back pains and allergies. For some people, it's fertility problems or migraines. There's many ways that our bodies start screaming at us because our brains and our bodies weren't designed to sustain that level of hyperactivation. So sometimes we eat chocolate like I did, or look for something funny. Those things are quite innocent reactions. But if you don't know what's happening and you're feeling that yucky, horrible, agitated feeling all the time, then that's how people start showing up in the doctor's office. That's how we start turning to things like alcohol or drugs. For some people, it's shopping. For some people, it's food. Some people eat too much and some people don't eat enough. When we're in prolonged stressful thinking, there's many ways that we can act out, and our bodies don't like it. It's very hard to sustain that level of stress activation. So the reason I turned myself into experiment, because I wanted to see how long it would last. So remember, it was only a few seconds of adrenaline that was shot into me, and that lasted an hour. If you're sitting in anxiety, stressful thinking for 20 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and you're not feeling well, this is why. It really doesn't feel good. So the good news is that once you stop thinking those kind of stressful thoughts, it will get better. Our bodies are amazingly resilient. And when my thinking slowed down, so did all that adrenaline, and so did the pain. It just melted away. It really came from inside. When I started to see that I didn't have to torture myself with my own thinking, I didn't have to pay attention to all those judgmental and resentful thoughts. My life actually got much more peaceful because my thinking was really turning into a safe neighborhood. It wasn't a stressful one anymore. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any more questions about this, please email me or send a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel, and you're going to hear more videos like this. So I hope this helps you to have a better stress-free day. I hope you've had some insights listening to this story, and I hope it has a happy ending for you too. So have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.